All right. Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX-admin training. Just a little early here, so we'll wait for people to be able to get signed in. Plus, I want to make sure the audio is working properly. All right, there. So the Dash training is about an hour and a half, actually, on average, is what we're at right now. If you have questions, please feel free to make use of the chat, and I'll try to address those questions as they come up. Just as a reminder, we do have other videos on our YouTube channel here. Most of them are these training streams. However, we do have demos for like our advanced reporting feature, as well as our ACDQs Pro. Both of those I can't quite get into in depth during the training, so it's good to check those two out. I know we just released recently MS Teams integration demo, and I believe tomorrow we're having a webinar about getting started with Zapier and using that with VirtualPBX, so I encourage you to sign up for that. All right, let's go ahead and get started since it is now 10 a.m. Pacific time. So on the screen here, you see our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get here from the virtualpbx.com website. Just look for the little blue bar going across the top, and you should see a login link there. That will take you to this page. I do recommend bookmarking this page so you can get here quickly and easily in the future. To get logged in, we first need your email address, right? That's your username. That would be the email address you use to sign up with us, or would be the email address your admin used to create your user on the Dash account. We'll need your password, and then we need the account name. Right? This could be your company. This is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you don't remember your password, or maybe you never got the email, easy enough to resolve. Just go ahead over here above the sign-in bar. We got your on the right. We got your info link. You click on that. We still need your email address, right? Then we need either the account name or a phone number on the account, right? And that would be a customer-facing phone number, right? So phone number your customers call to get to your business, right? Then you click on reset password. You'll get an email link, and that will allow you to change your password. It will then log you back out. So that way you can log back in with it, and you have the option to then click on the Remember Me box. So let's go ahead and get signed in here. Now, I'm using a demo account or test account that's been around for a while. I've logged into it several times, so it's going to take me right to the dashboard page. For you, if it's your first time logging in, then the system will actually directs you to your account page, which you can get to by clicking on your name up here at the top. And the Dash Wizard pop-up windows will start coming up telling you what certain things are. So this is where you would go to change your own password, for example, or even your own email address. Now, as an admin, I also can get to the account settings here. Typically, the main thing that people change here is the time zone and or the display language. You can also change the account name. If you do change your account name, I would request that you email our billing team so they know, because there are some things on their side that they will need to adjust. Additionally, on your accounts, you'll have another section under user for billing information. Things where like you could update your credit card information. You could see who the billing contact is, and you can change that if necessary. You could see your service plan. You could see your invoices. Right. And then when you're done over here, just on the right, click on the close box, and that will take you to the dashboard. So on top, again, you have your name. You can click on that anytime to get back to those account pages we were just looking at. For many of you, to the right of your name, there'll be a D&D toggle or switch, right? D&D for do not disturb. By default, it's off, right? If you click on it, it'll slide it to the right and be white at that point, meaning that you're now on Do Not Disturb mode. So calls won't be offered to you, and they will typically go to voicemail. I don't have that here on my user because I'm part of an ACD queue. ACD queues and the Do Not Disturb toggle don't go well together. Then we've got the little question mark icon here, or the help icon. So we've got the web phone, which is a VoIP device. It makes use of Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. This only shows up after you've added the web phone as a device on your user, right? Until then, this will just be a blank spot. We have chat with us. This will open up a chat window on the bottom right of your screen. And that way you can talk to one of our support staff members. To learn more, this will take you to, actually open up a new tab and take you to our support pages. That way you can see various guides and videos of particular features on Dash, as well as how to set up VoIP phones. And then we have the link here for the online store, which goes to store.virtualpbx.com. That's where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. Then we have the 3 horizontal line icon or hamburger icon. Right, this takes you to other Dash features. We are primarily going to be in the dashboard for the majority of this training. However, we will get to these other sections. And then lastly, the logout icon. Here in the middle, we have total users. These are people who make and receive calls on your account. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis. So adding users increases your bill, right? Removing users decreases it. Then we have our devices. I have a total of 36 and a breakdown and pie chart. First up, I have Softphone, right? So this is a software application that makes use of the internet to make and receive calls, right? It is a VoIP device, right? VoIP, in case you didn't already know, stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. The softphone, that can be the VirtualPBX softphone application. That can also be a third-party application, right? Someone else's softphone app. All right. Then we've got the web phone, right, which I've already explained a little bit. Then cell phone, right? Most of us know what a cell phone is. We have a SIP phone, which would be a physical VoIP phone, right? Sits on someone's desk. You can pick it up, make and receive calls. I have unregistered devices down here. This means that 3 of my physical VoIP phones are not registered, right? Means the system cannot send calls to them or from them. That could be because they're not plugged in, right? That could also be much more complicated in that someone has some network settings that are interfering, or that could even be if someone lost internet connection completely. All right. Then we got total numbers. These are phone numbers on your account. I have 19. Most accounts include anywhere from, I believe it's 3 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Right. So I'm paying an overage for at least 4 of my phone numbers, right? And that's on a per number per month basis. To get the specifics for your account, I would encourage you to contact our account services team. They can verify for you how many phone numbers are included in your account and what the overage is if you go over that. Right, here I have assigned numbers. All of my numbers are currently assigned. If I had a number that was not assigned, I would have another part of this breakdown would be spare numbers. Then, and spare numbers do count towards your allotment. You're just not using them, right? Someone could dial them, they'll get a busy tone. Then we have another breakdown here between USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? It's an 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. Right? USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? If you want a phone number in Raleigh, North Carolina, and another number, say in Chicago, Illinois, another in San Jose, California, they would just all count as USDIDs. You can have international numbers on your account. If you are interested in doing so, you just need to send an email to our porting team. That's at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. If there are additional requirements that that country has, the reporting team will let you know what those are. And then once we get that, we submit it to the particular country's telephone regulatory commission, and then go about acquiring a phone number for you, and then adding it to your account. Down here, we've got conference bridges. I've got 2. That means I've enabled 2 of my users to host or moderate a conference. Now I can only do that after I've assigned a main conference number. Anyone can then join those conferences, but only those 2 people that are actual moderators. Over here to the top right, we have our main company numbers. These 3 phone numbers all act the same way, right? So they all go to the same location. They all have the same main greeting. Right, down below, I have my main conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, right? They all go to the same place, right? The same conference room area. And then after that, you can have individual conference rooms for their moderators. Third here, we got our fax box number. You can have the one main fax box number. This is your inbound fax number. The company directory here, this downloads a CSV file, right? It has all your users with their extensions as well as their primary devices. Then we have the soft phone directory. This is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would download this file, upload it to the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app, and then you can see the presence status for all your staff members in relation to the VirtualPBX soft phone, right? So if your entire staff is just using the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then you could see who's on a call and who's not, right? So like right now, I could check and see, oh, my coworker Mike is not on a call, so I can give him a call and we can talk about a particular issue we're working together on. Now, say for instance, I look at my colleague Jeff. I see on the soft phone he's available, so I give him a call. If he has another VoIP device, say he's got a Yealink phone, for example, right? The soft phone directory on my soft phone is not going to tell me he's on his Yealink phone. So I could still ring to him on a soft phone, and he'll tell me, "Hey, I'm on another call," and then we'd arrange to talk later. Right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code that you can use in our online store. And then lastly, we have the account realm. This is used in a couple of different things. One, if you're using a third-party soft phone or a third-party VoIP device, something that's not auto-provisionable, this is one of the 3 key pieces of information you would need to program or provision either that software or that phone. The other thing this is used for is to send a fax out. So on Dash, sending out a fax is via email, right? So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number, right? The @ symbol. Then you put your account realm. After that, you just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send, right? The system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachments. Does not look at the subject line, does not look at the body of the email. It just ignores those completely. You can only send out the one attachment at a time, so you want to make sure there's no signature file included with your email. All right, up here we have the company caller ID. This is your default caller ID for your VoIP phones when they make an outbound call. This pull down, you can select any of your main numbers. Then you have the company caller ID name or CNAME. This lets you put in 15 characters, including spaces and special characters, that would then be transmitted as part of your outbound caller ID. All right, once you click Save Changes, this information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes about 3 business days for them to update their servers. Something to keep in mind about CNAME is that not every carrier that your outbound call will go through supports CNAME. Right, that we can't make every carrier support it. Usually the companies that don't are small or regional carriers, so it doesn't come up very often. Additionally, if you make a call to a cell phone, the cell phone providers are pretty strict about what they allow to show up on cell phones displays on their network. Some require a fee to have CNAME show up consistently, right? Like I haven't checked recently, but AT&T initially, they wanted me to pay an extra $10 a month to have CNAME show up for every call. And I wasn't willing to pay that, so I don't get CNAME showing up on all calls that come to my cell phone. So that's something to be aware of when you're calling people. All right, company emergency information, or E911. This needs to be a North American address, right? And then and that address is associated with this phone number that you have selected here on the pull down, right? Every phone number can have its own E911 address. So that way you can assign the particular addresses to your staff members' VoIP phones, so that if they dial 911, the proper address shows up to emergency services. And then when you make changes here, you just click on Save Changes. Right, next up we have hold music. Hold music on Dash is actually defined as after a call has reached a user and they have pressed hold on their VoIP device. Once they do that, then the hold music file will play. To upload your own file, you would just click this upload button, find the file on your computer, and then click this upload button. Now, Dash will play back .wav, .ogg, and .mp3 files, and that's currently it. You want to make sure that file is recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that it's under 1 megabyte in size. All right, hours is actually part of main number, so we'll just go right to main number. All right, so at the top here, we got your main company numbers. Again, these are, in this case, my 3 main numbers. If I wanted to add more, you could either add from spare if you have additional spare numbers, or you would buy new numbers, right? And you have local or toll-free. Toll-free, pretty easy. You just need to choose the toll-free prefix you want to use. Then you click on search. You pick a number that you like. You can add multiple at the same time if you wanted to. Right? You can remove it by clicking on the little trash can icon. Otherwise, you would just click on By Numbers. The system is verifying that the number was truly available. And then it adds it to your account. And in this case, I'm adding it directly as a main number. Right? For local numbers, I need to know the area code. Right, so if I do a search for 310, that's the original Los Angeles area code. There's nothing available. So in that case, I'd want to look for a nearby area code. Right, and you can do a search for either overlays, right, or, like in this case, like Los Angeles area codes, and you'll get a list of all of them are available, and then you can do a search for each one. Now you have a little gear icon next to each of these numbers, right? This is where you can set up the caller ID, right? So each phone number can have its own outbound caller ID name. Likewise, and then you can also turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM information. So that would show up on your users' phones. Right, then we have the E911. So again, I can have an address for each phone number. And I can assign that to the VoIP phones. You also have Prepend. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right? So you could do something like promo, right? So now the word promo is going to show up as part of the caller ID information that shows up on my staff members, say, Yelling phones. So now they, oh, this is about the special promotion we're running, right? So they can adjust their greeting to the customer, right, as necessary. Now, if you choose you don't want to use this number, any of these numbers as a main number any longer, right? You can do that quite simply by clicking unassign next to a number. Right, so I can unassign both these numbers I just picked, for example. Now, those numbers are still part of my account, right? So now I have 21 numbers on my account. But, so I can either go to my numbers tab and delete them, or I could use them someplace else, and we'll get to that as we go further. Right, office hours strategy. By default, you start off at 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, you're open for business, right? Or you go custom office hours. If you do so, for each day of the week that you're open, you just put a check mark in front of it. And then you put your hours of operation, or your open hours, in these boxes here to the right in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option at the bottom to say that you're closed for lunch. That means your whole system says, hey, we're closed for lunch. And then you include your lunch hours, again, in that 24-hour or military time. And then you click Save Changes. Next up, are you closed for holidays? If you are, then you have Add Holiday over here to the right. You have Single Day, Date Range, and Advanced. Single Day is like we have here for Halloween. You give it a name, choose the month and the specific date. Click on Save Changes. Date range, like we have down here for Christmas break. Right, you give it a name, a start date, and an end date. Notice that there's no year indicator, so you'd want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And you can notice I have a single day here for New Year's Eve, as well as another one here for New Year's Day. And then advanced, that's this retreat example here. Give it a name, excuse me. I select the month, and then this middle pull down is 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week, right? So I'm saying the 3rd Friday in May, we're closed, right? Company picnic day. And again, any changes, click on Save Changes. Right, incoming call handling. So this is how your system is handling calls on your main numbers. And in this case, right now, we're on open hours, right? Notice I have subtabs here for how to handle calls during my lunch hours, how to handle calls during after hours, and for holidays. The options, pretty much the same for each, right? So the first one here, during my open hours, calls are coming in here to my virtual receptionist. This is a link. It's going to open up a new window here for me. And this is where we configure our auto attendant, for example, right? So on the left is our main menu. This is what people press on their phones to navigate through the system. If I click here on Add Route, then I can, this pull down, you have 0 through 9, the default action, as well as the start key. And then this pull down is where do you want it to go. Right, so start Smart PBX directory, right, the dial by name directory. You can have it go to a specific user, right, so a specific person. You can go to one of your call queues if you're making use of queues. You can have it go to a specific device, meaning a specific phone. Right, now that phone, you probably want to make sure it has its own built-in voicemail, right? Otherwise that caller will just sit there ringing forever until they hang up. Media file, right? This would be a greeting file. So like hours of operation or directions. Once that media file is done playing, the call ends. Right, then you have groups. These are departments. So you can send it to a number of people at once or in order. Advanced call flows. This would be if you have multiple auto attendants on your account and you want to make use of submenuing. Or you can send calls directly to a voicemail box. All right, over here on the right, we have greetings. These are your greeting options. First up is text-to-speech. Right, you type in what you want the system to say. You would click Update, Save, and Save Changes. You have up to 250 characters to work with, not words, characters. You can go a little bit over it, but 250 has been what I've seen as the most consistent working. When you use a text-to-speech, it's a computerized or robotic voice, right? This is a good thing to use for when you're just starting out, like you're not sure how you exactly want your calls to work, right? Whether that's because you're a startup, you have never used a PBX system, whatever. Now, one caveat to know about this text-to-speech greetings is the system reuses the same file name, right? So when I type one in here, the system will save it as main open hours menu TTS, right? If I come back even 5 minutes later and type a slightly different version of that greeting, right? It doesn't give me the option to change the name. It's just going to reuse that name. So my recommendation is when you first use a text-to-speech greeting, after you click Update, Save, and Save Changes, we'll close out of this real quick. Go over here to the Greetings tab on the left. Find that open, in this case, main open hours menu TTS file. Change the name. So if you need to go back to it, you can find it. And that way, each time you do that, the newest version is the one that says main open hours menu TTS. That's the one you just did, and everything else has a different name. All right, upload your own file. Again, you can upload .mp3, .ogg, .wav files. You want to make sure they're recorded in mono and under 1 megabyte. You can choose from existing recordings, so anything you've already either uploaded, any of the text-to-speech greetings, or anything recorded over the phone, right? You just can find the file and select it here. Speaking of recording over the phone, so the system says, hey, pick up a phone registered on this account. What that means by default is a VoIP phone on the account, right? Then you would call your main number, and then you enter this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So it only works during my main open hours, right? In this case, 9 to 5, right? So if I call at 6 p.m., this PIN number no longer works, right? Because now the system only will accept the after hours PIN number. Now, if you wanted to call in from, say, your cell phone, right? Or you have or a landline, right? Then under here, under settings, then you want to look at allow outside recording. You want to make sure this is on, right? By default, it's actually off, right? When this is on, that means you can call in with a cell phone or a landline. So during your open hours, you can call from your cell phone, enter this PIN number, and then you can record a greeting over the phone. Now, if you just got started, right? So you just signed up with us in the last day or two. When you call into your main number right away, right, you're going to get a message saying a greeting for this menu has not been recorded. It will then prompt you to enter the PIN number, right? And then walks you through recording over the phone. Now you have a greeting in place. If your company has been with us for a while, right? So there's already been a greeting in place and whatnot, but you've been told, your boss says, hey, record a new greeting. You call into the main number, you'll hear the greeting. During that time, you can enter in the PIN number, right? The system will recognize it and let you record a new greeting. When it does that, however, you're not given a chance to change the name of the file or save the file that was playing when you first called in, right? Instead, what happens is the system says, oh, you want to record a new main greeting. It just overwrites the file that was already there, right? So greeting A was playing, the file name stays the same, but you just overwrote the content. All right, then we got professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, as well as various versions of English and French and Spanish. They have multilingual options, hold treatment, etc. They handle their own billing via credit card, and they deliver to you typically via email. So then you would just simply upload your own file. All right, settings. First up here, we have number of retries on misdial. Right, what this means is how many times can the inbound caller make a mistake? So, 1 or 2 is typically plenty for most situations, but basically, in this case, the inbound caller has 3 tries, right? The initial try plus 2 misdialed, right? So after that third option, or that third mistake, we'll call it, then the system either sends the caller to the default action, if you have one, right? If you don't, then the call will end and we'll tell the customer, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. All right, dialing timeout. This is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the inbound caller is done. Right? In this case, that's 10. I think that's a little long. I usually say anywhere between 2 to 5. It's typically enough. But let's say the inbound caller, they called in and they pressed 5. Right? It's not a valid option. The system waits for a count of 10 and says, oh, you meant 5. It's not a menu option, and if it's not an extension number, then the system replays the greeting, right? And then they have another attempt. Allow outside recording, we already checked or talked about. So allow dialog extensions, right? If this by default, this is on, and that means if the inbound caller knows the extension number they want to reach, the system will recognize it and send the call through, right? If I turn that off, now when the inbound caller comes in, they can only press these menu options, right? If they enter an extension number, the system is not going to pay attention to it. It's like, nope, that's not going to let it go through. And then down here, we have suppress the playing of invalid entry. By default, it is off, right? So, but that's that, hey, I kept pressing 5, and after my last retry, and then that system says, hey, we didn't recognize your entry, goodbye. You can decide to turn this on. That means that invalid message won't be played to the customer. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, right? You want to click Save here. It will take you back to incoming call handling, and you want to click Save Changes here. All right, the second option here, this is your live operator answer option, right? So call, in this case, is being offered to Aaron. As you notice in my lunch, I'm actually sending it to a ring group, right? My front desk ring group. If they're not able to answer the call, right? Let's say so all my staff in that group is busy for whatever reasons, then the call gets sent to my virtual receptionist. Now, under my lunch, I have a very different setup here, right? I only have a default action as well as a text-to-speech greeting. Everything else is pretty much the same. Cancel out of that. Now, if we go back to open hours, right, this virtual receptionist is the same that we were just looking at because it's open hours. Just wanted to emphasize that. But again, so live operator answer, you can choose a user, you can send it to a call queue initially, you can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a media file. I don't recommend this because that means your inbound caller is going to hear back-to-back greetings, and that might throw them off or just delay them from getting through to somebody. Right? Groups like I had under the lunch hours. The advanced call flows, this means I'm sending it to a secondary attendant first. Again, usually not recommended. All right, third option here, and we'll go for, say, holidays. Right, call, I'm offering it here to, actually, in this case, I'm telling it, hey, skip right to voicemail, right? Again, I can offer it to users, I can offer it to devices, I can offer it to queues, I can send it to a media file, I can send it to a group, as well as one of my secondary attendants, or just say, hey, go straight to voicemail, and then I select which voicemail box I want it to go to. Typically, I see it on holidays or after hours sometimes for either seasonal businesses especially, or like a very small business. Or like a side, or like, like a startup someone does on the side. Well, they have a normal 40-hour-a-week job. The last option here, right, you're sending calls to one of your secondary attendants. This only comes into play if your account has multiple auto attendants. Typically, if you're sending a call to a secondary attendant, you should just make that secondary attendant make those settings on your virtual receptionist instead. But yeah, it's an option. All right, main conference number. So you can add from spare numbers, right? So you can have multiple phone numbers as part of your conferencing. You can also buy here, so add it directly to your conference room. You have a custom greeting, which is just text to speech, right? If you turn it on, and this is where you would say, thank you for calling ABC Cleaners Conference Room. Please enter the conference number you want to go to. If I don't have this enabled, right, when you call in, the system still says, welcome to the conference, and then asks you for your conference room number and then your PIN number. The main fax box, again, you can only have the one number. Once you've added a number, you want to click Edit Fax Box here. Here, the first one here, inbound email notifications, right? So this is the person who is going to get the emails for inbound faxes, right? So fax comes in, this email address gets an email. They'll have like the date and the time, the phone numbers involved, and then they'll have an attachment in PDF. This second field, you either want to put an email address or your company's email domain, right? So if everyone in your company has an email address that ends at abccleaners.com, right, you would just put abccleaners.com here. That means anyone with that email address, right, in that email domain, they can send a fax out. They don't have to be a user on your Dash account, right? So intern Dylan can send faxes out all day and not be a user on the account. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, meaning not every plan includes multiple auto attendants. The two major use cases we see are for someone who has multiple small businesses, right? So each business has their own phone number and their own main greetings, but the calls to those multiple businesses go to the same staff members, right? The other use case is, as I've mentioned, actually I've already mentioned, is submenuing, right? You want to go 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, right? Well, then English and Spanish become auto attendants where you create their own greetings for them and then their own menu options, right? So the Spanish one, the Spanish greeting, there will be a Spanish greeting, and the menu options would go to your Spanish-speaking staff members. All right, creating attendant, you just click Add Attendant up here at the top. We need a name and an extension number. All right, after that, you just click on Create Attendant. And the extension number, it might be something your staff members use to transfer callers from like one business to another. But for the most part, not used very often. Once a attendant is created, if you click on its name, now you have the option, do you want it to be unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, or do you want it to be available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option, right? Any attendant that you put available in main menu, right, it's going to be available in any other auto attendant and under the virtual receptionist. It will be even an option for like the ring group's next action. Now there's a phone numbers field here, so each attendant can have their own phone numbers. You would either add from spare or buy new numbers. Again, they have an extension number. Now, if you ever want to change an extension number, I do typically recommend add extension, put the new extension number in first, right? Click on Save Changes, and then come back and then unassign the original extension number. And then after that, you click on the little wrench icon here next to a attendant. That'll take a little while to open up. And then you see here, I only have the option to send these callers to the virtual receptionist, but I do have lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. These times, or in the case of dates, holidays, right, for dates, will match what you already set up under your main number. Right, so if you have a business that's 24/7 and another business that's only Monday through Friday, right, you're not going to be able to easily make them work on the same account, right? There might be a custom configuration that can work, or you might need to have two separate accounts. You'd want to talk to our account services team about that. They need the whole scope of what you need to do to let you know which one's a better option in terms of just having one as a separate account or having them on the same account but one with a custom configuration. All right, devices. Shows all your devices on the account, right? Green means it's registered, meaning we can send calls to it, right? Red means it's not registered, so we can't send calls to it. Black means you've turned it off, right? If you turn it on, it'll update and now it's a green device. To add devices, you can do so up here at the top. SIP phone, again, this is that physical VoIP device, right? So it sits on a desk. It will hopefully pop up here. Right, and then these are the manufacturers that support or have models that support auto provisioning. Right, some like Yealink have a lot of models to choose from. Others like HTech, not as many. But basically, you just need to find the make and model of the phone, and then you need to give it a name, right? So Angela's phone, and then we need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone. It's usually a sticker on the back, and hopefully it's helpfully labeled as MAC. If the phone's plugged in, usually under its like basic settings or general settings, there'll be a heading for MAC, and you can enter that information here. And then you would click on Create Device. After that, the only other thing you needed to do with the device in the dashboard here is to assign it to a user. However, you're not done at that point. You do need to log into the phone's web user interface. Typically, you do that by getting the IP address from the phone itself, entering the IP address in the address bar of your browser. The computer that you do that with needs to be on the same network that the phone is on. Then it asks you to log into the phone, which you should have that information in the phone's manual about the username and password. And then you need to enter in the URL to tell the phone where to get its config file from. Now, for the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages or do a search for auto provisioning phones. Right, this document will have screenshots of these various manufacturers, the proper syntax of the URL, and usually a couple settings to verify, right? But basically, once you've gone through that, right, you update the phone or save, confirm the changes, and then usually you have to click Auto Provision Now. The phone then goes out to that website, grabs its config file, it will reboot a couple times, and then show up as a green device on here. And then you're all set. Cell phone and landline, pretty much the same, is you give it a name, right? So Bob's phone, put +1 area code and phone number, click on Create Device. Now, when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or a landline, and we'll bring one up here. Right, this is standard or default settings. So call goes out to this phone, it rings, you pick up, you're going to hear from the system, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right? When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. That is usually pretty advantageous for you on your cell phone, so that way once you hear that message, right, oh, this is a work call. Now, if, for instance, you added a cell phone, but you're actually sending the calls to an automated answering service to handle your after-hours calls, well, that automated answering service can't press 1 to accept the call, right? It doesn't know when to, it doesn't know how to. In that instance, you want to make use of this first feature here. You want to put up a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So now what happens is we send a call to this phone number, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? So then your automated answering service can handle the call from that point on. Now, if this was actually going to my cell phone, if my cell phone voicemail picks up, right, that's still a connected call. So that inbound call ends up on my personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people absolutely do not. And that's purely up to your preference. Right. Now, the other thing that comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So by default, say customer Mary is calling, gets through to my cell phone, and I see customer Mary's phone number show up on my cell phone's display. I don't recognize the number, and I'm like, I just tired of hearing about extending my auto warranty, so I let the call go to voicemail. I'll deal with it later. All right, maybe I missed a sale. Maybe I'm able to, connect with customer Mary, and we're able to do business together. If, however, I uncheck this, right, so let's keep original caller ID. So now what happens, customer Mary calls me, my business number shows up on my cell phone's display. And what do I mean by that? Go back to our dashboard, right? This number that I select up here at the top, that's the phone number that shows up on my cell phone's display. So hopefully I would recognize my work number or my company number, so I know, oh, this is a work call, let me take it, right? It's worthwhile to me to try answering that call. All right, soft phone, there is a warning message here. I do recommend you read that at least once. And then you default here to using a third-party device, right? Whether that's, you're using a X-Lite from Counterpath, for example, or you're using a third-party VoIP phone, right? You would give it a name. You're going to want to copy and paste the SIP username. You want to click on the SIP password box, so then you can see the SIP password, so you can copy and paste that where you need it, and then copy and paste the account realm, right? Those are the 3 pieces of information you need from us to be able to program that software or device. Landline is the same as cell phone. You can add a web phone on this page. However, it's not going to work until you assign it to a user. The web phone has a login. It uses your dash login. So until you have it associated with a user, there's no dash login for it to work. All right, let's go to greetings. Oh wait, one thing I want to check up on devices. One thing to also look at on devices here, if you click on a wrench icon, check the audio. You want to make sure that the G711 and G711 or G711A and G711U should be on the right. Right. Your greetings manager, right, shows all your greetings on the account, or all your media files technically. You can add one here, right? Basically upload. You just give it a name, find the file on your computer, click on create greeting. Again, it's still only going to be able to play back .ogg, .mp3, and .wav files. Again, you want it recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. But here you can see your different file type, your names, types, right? TTS is text to speech. Upload, you uploaded it. And then recording means you recorded it over the phone. This allows you to download any of these files so you can listen to them on your computer to make sure they're still relevant. Little wrench icon here is where you can change the file name or just delete it completely. Right, if you don't need it at all, get rid of it. Groups, sometimes referred to as hunt groups or ring groups. These are departments. Create a group, click on add group at the top. You give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag the people you want over to the right. And then you click on create group. Once a group's created, you can click on its name. You can change the group name as well as the group call attempts, right? This is how many times that inbound call is offered to your group members. Those little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease that as necessary. And then you would click on Save Changes. Then you can click on the members box here, where it says 5 in this case. So now this is my ring order for calls that come into this group. You notice along the top, these are timestamps. This last one here, you can edit. So like I can change it to 200 seconds if I want to. And if I click distribute, it will equalize out over time. All right, likewise, if I change it back to 120, Then I click distribute again. Now, these are sliders, so I can adjust the ring times however I want. I could do something like that, for instance, or I can continue and set up what's referred to as blast ringing or ring all, right? So now calls come in and rings everybody at the same time until someone picks up. Right? If I want to change the order, I can click and drag people around. Now, right now, the order hasn't changed, right? Because Peter's still first. But once I click distribute, now David is first. A couple things to keep in mind about groups. For users with multiple devices, when a call comes to them from a group, all of their devices will ring. Right? So if Peter here has, 3 phones, call comes into him from this group, all 3 of his phones are going to ring until either he picks up or one of the other agents picks up if there's overlap. In groups, your staff members can use cell phones, landlines, or VoIP devices. That's one of the key differences between a group and an ACD queue. In ACD queue, currently, you can only make use or answer calls on a VoIP phone. And at that, a specific VoIP phone that you have to select, or the agent needs to select when they log in. Right? Groups can have an extension. Again, multiple extensions if you want them to. Groups can also have their own phone number. Now, one thing to keep in mind about these phone numbers is this phone number is not part of your virtual receptionist, right? Or an auto attendant. So it doesn't, calls to it aren't going to follow your open hours or your closed hours, right? This phone number is available 24/7. So meaning calls to the group are available 24/7. Groups can also have multiple phone numbers if you want them to. Then we have the group features box. First up is ringback. So call comes into the group, right? Gets offered to a staff member. When our system hears that ringing sound coming back from, we'll say Peter's phone, for example, right? By default, the system transmits that sound back to the inbound caller. Now, right, and that's the ringback, right? Now, if instead I enable the ringback feature here and I upload a media file, right? So call gets sent over to Peter, Peter's phone is ringing, right? So the system detects that ringing sound. It will instead play back, in this case, Canon and D to my inbound caller, right? Probably a more pleasant sound. Now, if for some reason Peter's phone doesn't make that ringing sound, right? There's nothing for the system to replace. So instead the inbound caller hears silence. So that's something to be aware of. The ways around that would be either multiple devices on a user or multiple users at the beginning of your group or at each stage of your group. So that way there's always a phone ringing. All right, next action, probably one of the more important features. When you enable this, what do you want to do if no one picks up the call? Right, this is a pull down, so you can select where you want it to go, right? You can send it back to your main virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants that's available in main menu. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a specific user or to a specific voicemail box. Allow call forward. If you enable this, this allows your users to make use of call forwarding. So that way they can get calls on a secondary device. Right now, if they already have multiple devices on their users, you probably don't have to make use of this feature. And then caller ID prepend. Again, this is for your VoIP phone users, but you can add either additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID to give your staff members a heads up about what the call might be about. Right? This is useful for people or your staff members who are in multiple roles, right? Or get calls for various different reasons. All right, numbers shows all your numbers on the account and where they're going. You have a little gear icon here, so you can always update the caller ID and E911, etc. for any given phone numbers. Spare numbers, right? These are the numbers you're not using. If you no longer want the number on your account, click on the box in front of it, and then you'll have the option to delete that number. And now it's no longer on my account, so I'm no longer going to be charged for it. You also have the option to buy numbers, right? Local and toll free. In this case, when you buy a number here, it just puts it as a spare number, right? Whereas like in groups, you could have added a number directly to the group, same with them in the main number. You can also port a number. So port just means moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So say from Verizon to VirtualPBX. You just click on a new port request. You give it a name. Choose US local toll free. Then it wants you to upload a copy of your bill, right, in PDF. And then it's going to ask, you have to acknowledge that it's within 30 days. Then it's going to ask you for the address associated with the phone numbers. It's going to ask you for your billing telephone number. It will ask you for which phone numbers you are going to port. It will then let you download a blank letter of agency, or LOA, and then you can upload a completed and signed LOA. There's 4 checkboxes it wants you to check, and then you submit. Right? When you submit, after it completes, you should get an email right away. Let the system, an automated email, right, saying, "Hey, we got your documents." By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team, and that means a person's actually looked at your documents. Now, that second email could be, "Hey, we're missing something," or "There was a problem we saw right off the bat with the documents. We're basically asking for a correction." Otherwise, it's just saying, "Hey, here's what to expect about the porting process," and that usually indicates they've submitted it. For the letter of agency, right, the LOA, it's going to ask you for company information, like your name, the company name, and the address. That should match what the current carrier has on file for you, right? So if you're porting from Verizon, whatever Verizon has on file for those phone numbers. Now, if for some reason when you contact Verizon, let's say you're porting 4 different phone numbers and there's 2 different addresses associated, right? Like one phone number has one address, the other 3 have a different address. In that instance, we're going to need 2 different LOAs, right? Because there are 2 different port requests at that point. The LOA does need to be signed, right? It can be a digital signature, that's fine, but simply typing your name twice, it's going to cause a rejection. And those are the main things to keep in mind about porting. Toll-free numbers usually take about 3 to 5 business days if everything is correct. Local numbers, usually about 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes faster. You can also, if for some reason the upload doesn't work, like you keep getting an error, you can also just email porting at virtualpbx.com with the 2 documents, and the porting team can process it manually. All right, users shows all your users on the account. Little gray suit or gray person icon is your standard user. Excuse me. The little blue suit icon means they are a system admin. Up here at the top, you click on Add User. You essentially just need to fill out the form, right? It's going to ask you for first and last name, and then email address used for login, right? That needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address. Password, as an admin, you get to create the password. And then their main extension number, or their default extension number. You can put in any extension number you want, right? You don't have to follow the system's suggestion. I usually do recommend making use of 4-digit extensions, just to give you the maximum flexibility. By default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user. At the same time, this voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, let's say we create a user, and then I add a VoIP phone to them right away. That user can then pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98, it's a feature code, that goes directly to their main voicemail box. The system will then prompt them to create a PIN number for the voicemail box, as well as to then record a voicemail greeting. Right, to save you a little hassle. Do you want the user to show up in the user directory? Right? Put a check mark if yes. You can always change your mind later. Send emails to an alternate address. So by default, let's say that users get voicemails, right? By default, the system sends that voicemail email notification to the email address used for login. If for some reason you don't want that to happen, then you would use the send email to alternate address and then put a different email address here in this field. And again, you can change that later. And then lastly, send credentials to the user. If you're only creating one user, you just click on create user. Otherwise, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Right, you can change their name at any time. Here, change credentials. You can change their email address or password. You can also send them the password reset email. The voicemail box PIN number, this mostly you would need to change it temporarily, especially for cell phone or landline users. Here's your option to send to an alternate address, as well as to be in the user directory. Over here on the right, where it says user, right? This pull down. You can change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Time zone, you can just do a search for the appropriate nearby city, so that like timestamps for voicemails would then be appropriate. This is the display language for the web pages. For this user, you have English, French, German, and Russian. You have ringing timeout. So by default, this is 20 seconds. Now, Aaron has the user feature follow me enabled, so that's why this is grayed out. And then his main extension number. Right, users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. You can add from spare or buy a new number for a user. Again, this phone number is open 24/7. Here's where you would add devices to a user, or you can remove devices. So I can do something like that. Likewise, so if we add a soft phone here, so here is the soft phone, right? Starts off as third-party soft phone, but now I've got this extra option that only shows up when you add a soft phone on the user page. Right, you click on that, and now you're going to say use VirtualPBX application. Now, unfortunately, the email address Aaron uses for login is already in use with a soft phone. So oh, I didn't click save changes there earlier. That's why it's still there. Let's see if that will still come up. So basically, each email address that has a VirtualPBX soft phone, right, can only have the one soft phone. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to make so many soft phones, I lose track of what one has what. But for you, right, you would click use VirtualPBX soft phone, or use VirtualPBX application, excuse me. You would click on create device, and then you'll click on save changes. Once you click save changes, Aaron would get an email with his login credentials for his soft phone, as well as download links. Right, so the soft phone app uses different credentials than your Dash login. Right, whereas the web phone, right, you just need to give it a name and click on save changes. So now Aaron can go to webphone.virtualpbx.net and then use his Dash login information to make and receive calls using Chrome or Firefox on a computer. Now, likewise, you can add all these other kinds of devices, right? The SIP phone, cell phone, landline, etc., just like we did under the devices page. All right, user features, caller ID number. This only comes into play with a user that has their own phone number. When you enable it, you're saying, hey, when they make outbound calls, it use their own phone number, right? If I turn this off, right, click Save Changes. Now when Aaron makes an outbound call from his VoIP phone, right, his outbound caller ID is this number. Versus if I use the caller ID feature, it would be his own phone number. Call forwarding. Now, call forwarding, your users can turn on themselves. They can do so either via the user portal, or they can do so on the phone, VoIP phone itself. There's a feature code for it. You can turn it on for them. Right? You would just need to select a desk phone or a mobile phone. You put +1 area code and phone number. Click on Save Changes. Failover mode is for VoIP phone users, where when the system detects their phone becomes unregistered and a call comes into them, the system will automatically send the call to the forwarding device. You just need to put in +1 area code and phone number. Hot desking is a VoIP feature. You need to enable it and then create a hot desk ID. Click on Save Changes. So, for instance, Aaron comes into the office today, and he sits down at desk number 7. He picks up the VoIP phone at desk number 7, hits *11. That turns on hot desking for that phone. It will ask him for his hot desk ID, and then it will tell him that calls will now be sent to this device. Right, rest of his day, calls to his user, calls that he's any ring group in, or any queue, right, gonna ring at the phone he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the handset, hits *12, turns off hot desking. Next time he comes in the office, say it's Friday, someone's already sitting at desk number 7. He says hi to Felicia. He moves on and sits down at desk number 19. Same thing, *11, hot desk ID, and now he's getting calls. Voicemail box, again, this is that voicemail box feature that was turned on and created with the user. This is fairly default. Now, transcription is actually a plan-specific feature, right? The system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out as best it can for you in the email notification. Right? Attach voicemail messages to email. This just means the system sends out an email notification saying, hey, you have a voicemail, and it also includes an MP3 attachment, so you can just listen to it on your computer or even your cell phone. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and no more messages can be added. So you have this option here to delete the messages from the server after the notification is sent out. So that way your voicemail box doesn't get full, right? So not a bad option. Now, if you do this, right, that means your users can't call in to listen to voicemails. They're not going to be able to see the voicemails via the user portal, right? They can only get them via email. Fax Box, users can have their own Fax Box if you want them to. If you decide to do this, I do recommend that you choose to have it go to a phone number, right? Whether you're choosing a spare number and making use of it or buying a new number, right? If by using a phone number, this user can then send and receive faxes, right? If you leave it like this, where I'm using an extension number, that means Aaron can only receive a fax. He can never send a fax out because the system uses his own fax box details as the basis for sending a fax out. And one of those pieces of information is the outbound caller ID. It only has an extension number to draw from, so that's what it uses, right? That's not valid outbound caller ID, so the fax will fail. Conference Bridge, right? When you enable Conference Bridge as an admin, the only thing you really need to do is create a PIN number and then click on Save Changes. After that, your user can go to the user portal. There's a conference tab. They can change the PIN numbers to whatever they want it to be. Follow Me is a feature for users with multiple devices. When you first enable it, it actually has both are all devices set to do not ring, right? Because it needs to know which devices you want to use. So you uncheck the devices you want to use, and then you can adjust the sliders. Right now, these are timestamps along the top, just like in groups. So I can change this to say 60, and then click distribute. And I can also change the order by clicking and dragging, and then save changes. Music on hold. You can have users have their own hold music if you want them to. You would just click enable, upload. You can either select the pull down to choose a file you've already uploaded. Otherwise, you would upload a new file. Oops. Right, .mp3, .ogg, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Customize call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this, right? And you need to basically, the system wants to know what kind of calls you want to record, right? Inbound internal, right? Coworker Bob called, right? Inbound external, customer Mary called. Outbound internal, I called coworker Bob. Outbound external, I called customer Mary. Now, every account includes at least some amount of storage as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that, there is an overage. Again, you'd want to double check with our account services team to find out how much storage you have included and what the overage is. You can also link your Dash account to an AWS account, right? Amazon Web Services, and you can use them for storage instead. And then you have do not disturb, meaning, hey, I don't want to take calls. And there we go. Next up is voicemail boxes. Right, this will show all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anyone with their name in this column means it was a user-created voicemail box. You can create new voicemail boxes here at the top by clicking Add Voicemail Box. You just need to give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. And then click on Create Voicemail Box. Once any voicemail box is created, right, as an admin, you can click here and click on the wrench icon. Right, so you can change the name, the voicemail box number, the PIN number if necessary. Under Advanced, Greeting Media, right, you can upload a voicemail greeting for any voicemail box. Right, temporary would be the out of office or vacation voicemail box. So if you have something selected here, it will supersede whatever you have selected in the media file until you change it back to none. And that is something also your users can set up themselves using the voicemail feature codes once they basically log in over the phone. Recipients. So your user voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. This is if you want additional people to get those voicemails. Just click Add, you put in their email address, and you click Save. If you need to add multiple, you just keep clicking Add after each one. Options. So after a voicemail box is created, you've added a greeting to it and a recipient. Make sure you just click on Already Set Up. Now, you have the option here. Do you want the emails attachments to be sent? And then do you want to delete after notification, are the major things to look at. Advanced routing. This is for direct inward system access, or DISA. This feature is not enabled on new accounts at sign up. This is something you would have to request to have set up. And what DISA allows you to do is to call in from, say, a cell phone or a landline and log in over the phone. Once you do so, then you're given the ability to make an outbound call. When you make that outbound call, it's not your cell phone number that's displayed as a caller ID, but your main company number. All right, so once the feature has been enabled on the account, you click here under Advanced Routing, you click Enable. And by default, it will create a PIN number for you. Now, I always recommend you click Edit Settings, and you give it an extension number, and make it an extension number that's not part of your normal sequence, right? So if everyone started off with their extension number starting with 100 or 1000, right? You started with extension 1000 going forward, make your DISA extension something completely different. Right, so I would not want to use 1019 in that instance. Do something like that. So now I call into one of my numbers that rings to the auto attendant, right, or the virtual receptionist. When I hear that main greeting play, right, I enter in this extension number. Right, it will then ask me for the PIN number. After it has the PIN number, I hear dial tone again. So then I just need to hit area code and phone number and make an outbound call. The reason this feature is not enabled by default is because it is a potential source of fraud on your account, right? Meaning someone could figure out the PIN number and the extension number even, right? And then make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it right away. Now, one way you might know about it would be via the call logs. Right, this shows your call history. So you can see I have an outbound call here. Now I know in this case it came from my colleague Mike and what phone he used. Right, so I don't have to worry about it being a DISA call. If I click on this month. All right, we just started a new month. I always forget that. Okay, so under custom, I'm just going to change it here. We'll go from January 1st. All right, so green arrow to the right, that's a call that came into the system. All right, and you can see, let's see if I can find a longer call. There we go. So you can see a call came in here, and this is what device it went to. You see normal clearing. That's what you typically want to see on a call. Now, calls typically, an inbound call will have two legs, right? A call into the system and then a call out to the device, right? So right here, right, first leg calling in. This is a call going out to the other device. Little fire hydrant icon here allows you to report a call. It will create an email for you that goes to support@virtualpbx.com, and it will have the technical details. I would suggest you also type in what happened or what didn't happen, right? Whether it's you had bad call quality or your phone didn't actually ring, what have you. So you can download these files as a CSV file. You can go back up to 1 year. After that, we'd have to get our engineers involved, but they can only go back up to 18 months. So if you need to keep call logs for like a compliance issue, I would recommend you do so at least every month. If you have heavy call volume, you might have to do the custom search week by week, just because longer or larger call logs can take a very long time to load. Feature codes, I've already talked about a couple of these. These are also available as a website or web page on our website, so you don't have to log in to look at them. But these allow your VoIP phone users to access different dash features directly from their phone. Your web phone users will also have an easy access to this information right there on the web page. Also on our support pages, there's a document called Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which just, again, has the feature codes and a brief explanation of how to use them, just in a one-page PDF. All right, so that was a dashboard. Let's go over to ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. Right? This is a call center feature. Right here, we're showing our standard queues. So queues are available on certain plans, right? So you might have to upgrade your plan, and then it's an upgrade fee on top of your plan price based on a per queue basis. ACD Queues Pro as well are available on certain plans. You definitely want to check with our account services team to get the current pricing. I am well behind on what the pricing is for queues. Now, so once you have queues, you would click Add New Queue, and you go through the steps here. Actually, I'm just gonna, let's just go to an existing queue. Right, so you give the queue a name, right, and then you choose whether a queue can have an extension number or a phone number. right? So unlike groups can have both, right? But a queue can only have one or the other. Now, a queue can still be a menu option, as can a group, right? This is just a direct way of getting, another way of getting to the queues. Right, so then under configuration, we have queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull downs don't work very well here on my streaming software. So right here, we got round robin, meaning the calls will equalize out over to my agents over time. There's most idle, meaning whoever's been waiting the longest for a call gets the next call. There is least calls, meaning whoever has the least amount of connected calls gets offered the next call that comes in the queue. There's also least offers, right? The least amount of connected and missed calls. Whoever that person is gets the next call that comes in. All right, default music. Oh, this is hold treatment, kind of blocked off here. So you can upload a media file. Now, that's your only option in terms of hold treatment for the standard queues. On ACD Queues Pro, you have additional options like announcing the wait in line or announcing their position. And you can have different media files play at different times. Queue timeout measured in seconds. Right, this is how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold. Queue call limit, this is how many people can wait on hold. Now, this is on top of the calls that are already speaking to an agent. Right. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that means if a call comes in to the queue, but you have no staff members logged in, the system will treat that inbound caller as if they've already hit that 3600 second. And then you have the escalation call flow after timeout. Where are you going to send the call after that timeout happens? Again, you select from the pull down. Basically, you can send it to another queue, another group, a user, or a voicemail. Then you have zero out call flow. Basically, this, if you enable this, you're letting your inbound caller press 0 while they're waiting on hold. If they do so, where do you want to send them? Right? Again, user, group, another queue, voicemail. Agent behavior. So first up, agent recovery time measured in seconds. How much time after they're done with one queue call before this queue offers them a second call, right? This basically gives your staff members a time for like a drink of water, finish off their notes, etc. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, that means if an agent misses a call, for whatever reasons, the system marks them away until the agent marks themselves ready again. And then agent connect timeout, measured in seconds. 20 seconds is plenty of time. Again, queues are limited in that you can only accept calls with a VoIP device. And then you would click on create queue if you're just creating, otherwise save changes. Once you create a queue, over here on the left, you would click on members. These are my staff members who are allowed to be in an ACD queue. If I click on manage members, right? So these are my queue members over here. These are my other staff members. So if I wanted to, I could click on Michael here and move him over. So now he can log into queues. Right, so once you've determined who's going to be in your queue or who can be in your queues, you go back to queues. If you click on a queue, right, you click on agents here. And so I can click and drag someone over so they're in this queue, or they can be in this queue. And once you have agents established in a queue, you click on managers. You choose you can choose any of those to be a manager within the queue as well. Now you notice here, I'm actually already logged into this queue. So here we can end my session real quick. So beginning of my day, right? I would log into the website, click on ACD queues to get to this page. I would click on begin session, right? So now I'm in my queues, right? But I'm marked away. I'm not ready to take calls yet. Now, especially that first time I log in, I want to click on this phone icon here and select my device, right? So choose a specific VoIP phone. All right, click on the little handset icon again, and now I can mark myself as ready, and now I'm green, ready to take calls. Right, if I'm blue, that means I'm on an inbound queue call. If my little bar here on the left is yellow, that means I am on an external call. Right, that can be someone called my extension directly, or I could be making an outbound call back to a customer. And I believe if I'm gold, I'm on wrap-up time. Pro queues also have a performance icon over here on the left. So you, as a manager or an admin, you can compare agents to each other. The pro queues also allow system admins or managers to eavesdrop on a call, whisper to their agent, right, to give them help as they're on a call, as well as barge in and just take over a call. Again, we have that demo for the pro queues on our YouTube channel. I do suggest taking a look at that to get a better look at how the pro queues look. All right, blacklists. This is an included feature. A blacklist allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. Right, so you would click on blacklists and then edit blacklists. If you don't have a list, you would just click on add. Otherwise, you can click on an existing list. So list needs you need to give it a name. And then up here, are you blocking anonymous? That means if we're not getting valid inbound caller ID, you're blocking the call, right? They get a busy tone. Otherwise, you click add number, you put +1 area code and phone number, and then click add and keep clicking add until you're done. Right? Then you would click on save. You have to go back to settings, and you want to make sure that list is over here on the right under selected. And then you would just click update. So now every phone number that's on this list, as well as the anonymous calls, they try to reach any of my phone numbers, they're going to get busy tone. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to change or create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. Right, the first one is pretty easy. Let me just click edit here, right? I just said, hey, I'm calling it 408. And anytime a staff member dials a 408 phone number on their VoIP phone, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to this 408 phone number. Right. The other one here is a feature code. So I created a feature code, right? *550. And anytime my staff members on their VoIP phones hit *550, then dial the area coded phone number they're reaching to, the system will then change their outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. And I do recommend using a star and then 3 digits for the feature codes, so that way you're not potentially making a conflict with any feature code that's already built into the system. Oh, any of so the phone numbers you can choose, right, for the display, they need to be a number on your account. All right, faxes, this goes to the fax manager. So this is available on all accounts. As an admin, you can see your inbound faxes, right? You can also check on your outbound faxes. I didn't realize this account had 6 fax boxes. Now, normally you'll see like successes and failures. Any failure you see here, that means there's a problem with the system reaching out to the other fax number, right? So like you could see things, there's a details section on the far right here you can click on. You can see things like user busy, right? That means we encountered a busy tone when we try to call the fax number, right? So you just try again. The email to fax logs, if you see like a thumbs down like we do here, now that tells you there was a problem with the system had processing the fax request. Now you can click on the little eyeball icon here, and you take a look and you see no valid attachments. Basically, this user sent out a fax, right? So he had the proper format, right? And the user was from the correct domain, but the system didn't detect an attachment to make use of. or it didn't find the proper attachment, right? So no PDF or TIFF file. This is relatively common because sometimes people just rush, right? Click send before they make the attachment. Other things we commonly see is someone uses their personal email address versus their work email address, right? Because then you get an error saying, hey, this person's not a user on the account. Monitor, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of all your users, right? Green means they're waiting for a call, right? You could see who's available, who's busy. You could also split it down by device that they're using. So this monitor doesn't care what device they're using. It will just tell you if they're on a call or not, versus the soft phone, desktop soft phone directory, right? Only shows you their status of the soft phone. You can see your active inbound calls and who they're going to. Parked calls, if you have any parked calls, it will also show their parking spot number. All right, number manager, we've pretty much already looked at this under the numbers tab. So you can add spare, by numbers, etc. The recording manager actually would open up a new tab typically to go to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It uses your dash login, so you can then view your call recordings, listen to them, download them, delete them. And again, if you actually linked your AWS account to your dash account, when you click on the recording manager, it would take you to the portal where you could see your storage on AWS. Reports is actually for advanced reporting. This is a plan-specific feature. When you click on this, it would take you to a new tab to the reporting area. The reporting area has its own password, right? It will use your email address used for login, but it will have a different password for you. This will allow you, the advanced reporting allows you to create your own reports. There is a demo on our YouTube channel here. I would advise you to take a look at that for advanced reporting. Again, that's a plan-specific feature. Voicemails, this is the voicemail manager. So you can look at any voicemail backs on the account and see if they have voicemails, right? You can listen to them, you can download them, you can see more details. You already have the date and the time and the phone number. If you put a check mark in front of a voicemail, right, you can move it to a different voicemail box. And then you can also change its status. Webhooks is also a plan-specific feature. You'd actually need to talk to our sales team about this, but this allows you to link Dash to other software. If you want to see examples, you can go to developer.virtualpbx.com. And also, we have that webinar tomorrow with the introduction to Zapier. That's basically you would use webhooks to link to Zapier, for example. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own user portal. So as an admin, you cannot go to another user's portal, right? But you already have access to everything else. So you don't really need to worry about it. But a user, if their voicemail box does not have delete after notification enabled, then they'll see their voicemails here, right? They can listen to them. They can download them. They can then choose to say, hey, Mark has listened, Mark has deleted. So that way it will then delete the voicemail box or voicemail. Call history, they can view their call history. They can change the date range. Faxes, they could see what faxes they've made use of if they had their own fax box. The contact list, this is everything within your Dash account. This is not something your standard users can add to, right? But they would see everything that already exists on the account. The conference tab. Over here on the right, this is where your users would change their moderator PIN number as well as their participant PIN number. They have the option to have people come in and muted, to join deafened. And then do you want to have entry and exit tones? When this user is actually in a conference, right, they can invite other Dash users to their conference. Right? They can lock a conference so no one else can join. They can mute everybody. They can unmute everybody. They can hang up the conference. Also, when they're in a conference, under the particular participants, right, they can mute a specific person as well as kick out a person from the conference. Then we have the Settings and Devices tab. Yeah, and this is where their users would set up their own call forwarding. Right, click on the box, put in the area code and phone number, and then click Save. And likewise, they can turn it off here. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions pop up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. Again, just another reminder, we have the webinar related to Zapier tomorrow. I believe that's at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can find details about that on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. Other than that, I thank you for your time, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.